All right, so we're gonna kind of start this a little differently. So to begin, it's kind of just like I would want to see from you guys. I'm gonna go through like a few items and just raise your hand real quick if you've come in contact with any of these items on a daily basis or whenever. Okay, so yeah. Okay, so what do these all have in common? The answer is oil, and a lot of people don't realize that. Just real quick, I'm just gonna pass these out, but just to raise awareness, a lot of people think that oil is just used today primarily for fuel, but a lot of people do not notice that majority of oil is also used in daily items that we use every day. So these are just a list of, it's actually 144 items out of 6,000 that petroleum is used in every day. And I think it's just cool to realize it says 42 gallon barrel of oil creates 19.4 gallons of gasoline, while the rest, which is more than half, is used to make things that are listed on this paper. So that's just a little crazy to realize that how important oil is used today. So I'm Taylor Klein.
I'm Hannah Bowles.
And I'm Lucas Lewis.
And our wicked problem is what happens when we run out of natural resources, and we're specifically focusing on oil distribution. So a background, what is oil? Crude oil, commonly known as petroleum, is a liquid that is found within the earth, comprised of hydrocarbons, organic compounds, and small amounts of metal. And this is according to oil price. Crude oil is created through the heating and compression of organic materials over a long period of time. And most of the oil we extract today comes from the remains of prehistoric algae and zooplankton that settle on the bottom of oceans and lakes. And then over time, this organic material combined with mud was then heated at high temperatures from the pressure created by heavy layers from the sediment. And then this process is known as diagenesis, which changes the chemical composition first into a waxy compound called kerogen, and then with increased heat into a liquid, like a waxy liquid, through a process that is called catagenesis. So just a few numbers for you guys to see how much oil is consumed. So according to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, these are the following statistics for, it breaks it down into continents, but I also put up the United States just so you can see how much we consume. So in 2010, this is the total petroleum consumption in thousands of barrels per day. So as you can see in 2010, we had around 19,000. And you can see though that it went down for 2011, but then went back up. And then same with the rest of the continents. You could see that in 2000, they are fairly high, and then they go down in 2011, but then back up. So each you could see that there's a linear increase in the amount of consumption of the petroleum. And then overall, the world, you could see on the bottom row, 2010 we had about 88,000 barrels, and then 2013 it went up to 91,000, and this is continuing to increase to today.
Okay, so as Taylor mentioned, oil is used in many aspects of the world. Before we started researching this, I just thought oil, we use it in our cars and everything, but it's actually used in so many aspects, for transportation, obviously, and then in soap, toothbrushes, shampoos and conditioners, deodorant, trash bags, pens, like we talked about before, but also in hospital equipment. It's used in artificial limbs, medicine, and bandages. And according to Sullivan, in 2012, the top 10 uses of oil were cosmetics, synthetic rubber, medicine, lubricants, cleaning products, asphalt, synthetic fabrics, food, plastic, and fuel. So it's a wide variety. It's not just one specific thing. You can see how detrimental this would be if we would run out. So we related it to each of our specific disciplines. So some physiological effects of decline in oil would be our relationships with other countries. We would come into conflict with them, distribution within a country. It would just create a lot of problems, probably war as well. Engineering effects of decline in oil, the asphalt for roads, our transportation and energy, and water treatment would all be affected. And then the medical effects of oil, if we would run out of oil, we couldn't run the medical equipment, we couldn't give people the treatment that they needed, which would cause a huge problem in our healthcare system. And also the transportation of patients to the hospital to get treated, so it would just be a downfall of effects.
So I did how kind of the drilling works. By a journal done by Frederick and Strickland in 2001. So first they try and test the oil samples. They'll go into different areas, and they'll do a couple of different kinds of sampling. They'll either dig, and on our property that's down in southern Ohio, they dug about a 100-foot hole down and took samples out of. There's also explosives. They set off small doses of TNT. They also use chemicals they shoot down in the ground and suck it up with pipes. And they also use sonar that shoots down, and the oil bounces off differently, so we'll be able to tell deep down what kind of oil it is. So digging to the preset depth, where they'll read and find the oil at, they'll kind of go to a preset depth of where they think that the plant is going to dig to. This determines the depth above where the oil is sitting, so that they'll dig just above where the oil is at. So now they decide where to place the drilling pad at, to where the deepest part of the oil field would be at. And then they attach the Kelly and the turntable. The Kelly is the part on the very bottom of the well that's kind of like a drill head almost. And the turntable is what picks up the whole drill, slams it down to the ground and turns, and that's slowly how it digs up the dirt. And what size Kelly and how strong the turntable depends on how deep the well they're digging at. It can range between 100 feet to a couple thousand feet. And that's where they kind of start digging. So once everything is set in place and the drilling begins, while drilling, new sections will be added, or joints as they call it. These direct the mud and other water and minerals that shoot out, and this will go into a different pad. Then they take off the tip, or they call it a tip out. This is where they take off the drilling bit and actually put down in sections. What makes it, it's like a big straw that goes into it. These separate once the desired depth is reached right above the oil field. And then they shoot cement and add to the casing. This helps so once they do reach the oil doesn't come shooting out. They can control the flow of the oil once they reach it. And then the drilling for the oil actually begins and the flow starts to come out. So these are two kind of 3D pictures of what it may look like. Over to the left is like a solo pad. Once they drill down, they'll take that turntable off, and they'll also take the Kelly off, and they'll start to shoot it into the oil field right here. And then these are like different plants, and these can be anywhere from a mile apart to 15 or 30 miles apart, depending on how big the oil field is. But when they shoot those down, there's long tubes that snake into the oil field and try and get the most out of the oil. And this is in Cadiz. This is in Harrison County where my farm's at. This is a very, very big plant. A lot of people in Harrison County are very upset because there's a lot of light pollution that goes down there, and it's very, very loud. So this is a central hub where all the oil comes from those little plants. And this is actually a picture of one that's on my farm. They just got finished drilling for it, I want to say about 2 years ago, when there was a really big boom. And this was all trees around it. To drill these pads, they clear absolutely everything and drill all the lines, and it's very, very bad for the population and animals and whatnot. But as you can see, they'll have the pad, once they drill down, they'll hit water and they'll hit different minerals, and they'll feed it into a lake that's preserved. That's just so there's not just big runoff.
Okay, so this kind of goes into the distribution of oil. So the system of the distribution, you start by testing to locate oil fields. So this might take a little bit of time. Obviously, there's times where you're going to test and you're not going to find anything. So this can be a lengthy process. But once you do find an oil field that has oil in there, you mine the oil, and then once you get that, you're going to refine the oil from crude to usable. And then from there, it can go to different places, and some of those include terminals, bulk plants, gasoline service stations, and then home heating oil businesses. So in conclusion, we're exponentially increasing our rate of oil use every year. Not only is this a crisis for the United States, but as you can see, the world as a whole, we're using a tremendous amount of oil. So when that oil is used up, what are we going to do? That's our wicked problem. So we're going to try and look more into that. So just something to think about as we leave you with. The things that we brought up at the beginning of the slide, how oil is used for everyday aspects, how would your life be impacted or affected if those were taken away from you? You can imagine why this is such a crisis. So, yeah.